Most people live their lives following a silent script that society has already written for them. A script that tells them what success looks like, what fun is supposed to feel like, and where their energy should be directed. They rarely stop to question whether the traditions and habits they've inherited actually nourish their deeper needs, or whether they simply provide the illusion of satisfaction. For them, life becomes performance, where the applause of others substitutes for inner fulfillment. The Sigma male, however, stands apart. He does not merely accept the script handed down to him, he dissects it with precision. To him, conformity without reason is wasteful, and indulgence without meaning is a form of self-betrayal. He treats the collective rulebook not as a guide, but as a rough draft, something to be ruthlessly edited until only the parts that serve his genuine objectives remain. Every choice is filtered through a personal equation of cost versus benefit. If an activity drains his mental reserves without providing authentic value, it is cut out without hesitation. What emerges from this process is a lifestyle that often looks unusual, even antisocial, to the casual observer. Yet, beneath the surface, it is anything but random. It is carefully engineered to maximize mental clarity, deepen meaningful experiences, and preserve the rarest commodity of all, personal freedom. It is this philosophy that explains why the Sigma consciously distances himself from many mainstream behaviors that most people adopt unquestioningly. 1. The sensory overload of high-volume nightlife. For the average person, the nightclub represents the height of social excitement. It is a place where music pounds relentlessly, lights flash in dazzling chaos, and crowds press shoulder to shoulder in a dance of collective energy. To the Sigma male, however, this same environment is little more than a war zone for the senses. The deafening music fractures every attempt at meaningful conversation. The flashing strobe lights make it impossible to observe subtle facial cues or sustain focused thought, and the sheer density of bodies compresses movement into a slow, frustrating shuffle. What others interpret as vibrant fun, he perceives as a catastrophic loss of signal, a space where authentic human connection cannot survive. For him, the essence of social interaction lies in depth, the ability to exchange complex ideas, notice the micro-expressions that reveal unspoken truths, and follow a conversation without interruption. None of this is possible when every sentence must be shouted and immediately repeated. In such an environment, his body shifts into defensive alertness, constantly processing and filtering the overwhelming stimuli. Instead of leaving energized, he departs drained, his inner resources depleted by the sheer noise of it all. This avoidance of the nightclub scene is not an antisocial rejection of people, but a deliberate curation of quality over quantity. He actively seeks environments where words are heard, expressions are visible, and thoughts are allowed to run their natural course. For him, true social wealth comes from a quiet cocktail lounge where the atmosphere invites conversation, a late-night walk beneath an open sky, where silence itself becomes part of the dialogue, or an intimate gathering among trusted friends where laughter isn't drowned out by speakers, but allowed to ripple freely, what most label as missing out. The Sigma identifies as protecting the sanctity of meaningful connection. 2. The calculated inefficiency of amusement parks. At first glance, amusement parks appear to embody joy. Roller coasters thunder across tracks. Children laugh with cotton candy in hand, and the entire atmosphere is designed to feel larger than life. Yet, when viewed through the Sigma's discerning lens, the magic quickly dissolves. Beneath the surface lies a carefully choreographed cycle of waiting. Waiting for parking, waiting to enter the gates, waiting for rides, waiting to pay for food that is overpriced and underwhelming. The bulk of the day is surrendered to lines, turnstiles, and timetables. What people describe as a full day of fun is, in truth, hours upon hours of idle patience punctuated by a few brief moments of adrenaline. The Sigma male evaluates this equation with ruthless clarity. A 2-minute thrill cannot justify the sacrifice of an entire day. The fatigue of standing in line, the claustrophobia of crowds, the surrender of freedom to schedules designed by someone else. It is not that he is opposed to excitement or adventure. In fact, he craves them. But his version of excitement must exist on his own terms, not dictated by the rhythm of a corporate machine. To him, true adventure is found in a secluded mountain trail, where each turn is undiscovered and every step belongs only to him. It is in swimming across a quiet lake with no lifeguards, no wristbands, no predetermined rules. just a raw embrace of nature. It is an immersing himself in a personal project so deeply that time itself disappears, leaving only the satisfaction of creation. For the Sigma, the theme park epitomizes calculated inefficiency, the surrender of personal agency in exchange for a scripted form of pleasure. By rejecting it, he reclaims his autonomy, ensuring that his energy is spent on pursuits that expand his freedom rather than contract it. 3. The interruption of constant self-documentation. We live in an era where the phrase "pics or it didn't happen" has shifted from casual joke to cultural law. Experiences today are often considered incomplete until they are packaged and presented to an online audience, captured in carefully framed photos, edited with flattering filters, stamped with hashtags, and then uploaded in the hope of likes and validation. For many, the experience itself is secondary to the performance of the experience, as if life only becomes real when witnessed by strangers. The Sigma male, however, rejects this philosophy entirely. When he finds himself in a moment of beauty, a glowing city skyline at dusk, a meal crafted with care, or an unexpected burst of laughter with someone he values, his instinct is not to reach for a phone, but to surrender to the moment fully. To him, interrupting an experience in order to document it fractures its integrity. Suddenly, instead of simply savoring the melody of a street musician, he would be analyzing angles and sound quality. Instead of tasting his food while it's warm, he'd be adjusting lighting to make the dish appear appetizing for others. Instead of riding the raw wave of an emotion, he'd be curating a caption to make it palatable for a digital audience. This shift in focus from immersion performance feels artificial and draining. The Sigma believes that life is best preserved in the mind and body through memory, sensation, and feeling rather than through the lens of device. He trusts that the richness of a moment lingers more authentically when it is recorded by his senses. The smell of the air, the weight of the silence, the taste of the wine, the resonance of laughter. While he may occasionally use photography for practical documentation or personal remembrance, he refuses to make his life a never-ending gallery for others to consume. For him, presence is sacred, and living for the moment outweighs performing for crowd. 4. The illusion of status in reckless driving. Modern culture loves to glorify speed and danger. Blockbuster movies frame reckless driving as the ultimate display of courage and charisma, with cars skidding through explosions in slow motion and heroes proving their worth by flirting with disaster. Even advertisements play into this narrative, romanticizing the roar of an engine as though it were a badge of rebellion and dominance. Yet the Sigma male is not fooled by this glossy illusion. He recognizes that what looks like daring bravado on the screen often translates to insecurity and poor judgment in real life. To him, a car is not a toy, nor is it an extension of ego. It is a powerful machine, one that commands respect and precision. The Sigma values mastery, not spectacle. He knows that true skill behind the wheel is not demonstrated through reckless acceleration or dangerous stunts, but through intelligent control, reading the flow of traffic, anticipating the unpredictable moves of others, and maneuvering with calm competence to ensure everyone's safety. He finds no thrill in gambling with lives for a momentary surge of adrenaline. Instead, he takes pride in disciplined driving, where awareness and foresight reveal more strength than recklessness ever could. In his eyes, those who use a car as a prop to broadcast status are not fearless. They are fragile, exposing their hunger for external approval. Their need to risk everything for attention betrays a lack of inner stability. The Sigma, by contrast, does not confuse danger with confidence. He proves his self-assurance in quieter ways, through control, restraint, and mastery. For him, the highest form of respect for a vehicle is to handle it with precision and care, ensuring that its power serves purpose rather than vanity. Where the crowd sees glamour and chaos, he sees immaturity. And while others may chase applause with screeching tires, the Sigma values the quiet satisfaction of arriving safely, in command of both machine and self. 5. The empty calories of celebrity culture. In today's hyperconnected world, the media landscape is saturated with endless updates on the lives of celebrities and influencers. Tabloid headlines scream about romantic entanglements, feuds, or fashion choices, while entire platforms are built around following the day-to-day minutiae of people who, in reality, remain strangers to the public. Many individuals willingly surrender their attention to this spectacle, forming emotional investments in stories that carry no tangible consequence to their own lives. To the Sigma male, this widespread fascination reveals itself as a profound misallocation of time and mental energy. He quickly identifies the stark reality. Celebrity gossip, no matter how dramatic or entertaining, has virtually no bearing on his goals, values, or immediate environment. While others lose hours scrolling through curated feeds or arguing online about the personal choices of people they will never meet, the Sigma asks a simple question: what does this have to do with my growth? If the answer is nothing, he disengages without hesitation. This does not mean he disregards public figures entirely. On the contrary, he is deeply curious about high achievers, innovators, and creators who demonstrate valuable strategies or unique ways of thinking. He is willing to study the processes of great leaders, the discipline of elite athletes, or the creative habits of groundbreaking artists, but only insofar as these lessons can be distilled into actionable wisdom. The noise that surrounds these figures, the scandals, the petty conflicts, the orchestrated outrage cycles, is instantly discarded. For the Sigma, investing emotion into parasocial relationships yields no return. It only drains a focus that could otherwise be directed toward his own controllable endeavors. By opting out of celebrity worship, he frees up vast reservoirs of attention and mental clarity. Instead of tracking who wore what at a red carpet event, he devotes his mind to reading literature that sharpens his perspective, acquiring specialized knowledge that strengthens his independence, and cultivating relationships that offer real reciprocity. In this way, his information diet becomes lean, intentional, and nutrient-dense, void of the empty calories of gossip and spectacle. The result is a mindset that is not constantly hijacked by manufactured drama, but fortified for long-term growth and inner stability. 6. The rejection of identity through branded consumption. In a world where consumerism dominates, entire industries are devoted to convincing people that their identity can be purchased. Luxury marketing campaigns carefully weave narratives that suggest self-worth can be worn on the wrist, draped across the shoulder, or driven down the street. The message is clear. To be someone, you must own something. For the Sigma male, this psychological manipulation holds no sway. He sees through the veneer of logos and understands that attaching one's identity to a brand is nothing more than a socially accepted illusion of status. His sense of self is rooted internally, anchored in values, skills, and personal integrity, not in external symbols meant to impress others. This is why his approach to consumption follows a far stricter rubric. Every purchase must first pass the test of durability, functionality, and genuine alignment with his personal aesthetic. A product that looks impressive but lacks substance is immediately dismissed. He finds little appeal in fragile items that demand constant upkeep or must be flaunted to retain their worth. To him, such possessions become burdens, anchors that restrict rather than liberate. This rejection of branded identity does not equate to a rejection of quality. In fact, the Sigma deeply respects fine craftsmanship and will invest generously in superior tools, clothing, or technology if, and only if, their superior performance directly enhances his life. A well-made watch, for example, may earn his respect not because it signals well to others, but because it is reliable, resilient, and designed with timeless precision. His appreciation for quality is functional and deeply personal, never performative. By decoupling his self-esteem from his consumption habits, the Sigma male immunizes himself against the exhausting cycle of trend chasing. While others scramble to stay relevant with the newest release or limited edition, he remains focused, allocating his financial and mental resources toward assets with lasting value, experiences that enrich his memory, education that sharpens his intellect, and ventures that expand his independence. Where the crowd seeks identity in what they own, the Sigma finds it in who he is and what he continues to build. 7. The draining spectacle of social group drama. Within many social groups, there exists a steady undercurrent of conflict. Small offenses, whispered rumors, shifting alliances, and the endless speculation about who is upset with whom. For many, this ongoing drama serves as a kind of entertainment. It fuels conversations, provides low-stakes intrigue, and offers participants the temporary thrill of being in the know. But beneath this surface-level amusement lies a constant drain on emotional energy and mental clarity. Every new rumor demands attention. Every minor slight sparks a round of analysis, and every shifting alliance becomes another variable to track. What is for most a casual pastime, the Sigma male perceives as attacks on his most valuable resource: focus. He recognizes that immersing himself in this cycle of gossip and petty disputes would only cloud his judgment and distract him from priorities that genuinely matter. Instead of indulging in speculation or passive rumination, he applies a clear, systematic protocol to interpersonal friction. First, he assesses the relevance of the issue, asking himself if it truly impacts his well-being or the integrity of a relationship that he values. If it does, he addresses it with directness and honesty, seeking resolution without theatrics. He establishes firm boundaries where needed, making it clear what behaviors he will or will not tolerate. Once clarity is achieved, he disengages from the cycle entirely, refusing to feed the fires of gossip or rehash the grievance endlessly. This pragmatic approach is sometimes mistaken for a coldness or aloofness, but in truth, it is a profound form of respect for his own emotional integrity and for that of others. By declining to participate in the ongoing spectacle, the Sigma models a quiet form of leadership. He demonstrates that progress and resolution matter more than clinging to grievances, and that true maturity lies not in winning petty disputes, but in moving past them. In this way, he conserves his emotional energy for relationships that nourish him and the projects that demand his highest attention, ensuring that his focus remains aligned with purpose rather than scattered across trivialities. 8. The deliberate avoidance of viral trends. Digital culture thrives on novelty. Every day brings a fresh cycle of dances, memes, viral challenges, and investment crazes that sweep across platforms, promising instant belonging and the intoxicating feeling of being part of the next big thing. For many, the pull of this collective excitement is irresistible. It creates a sense of community, however fleeting, and offers a shortcut to social relevance. The Sigma male, however, approaches this constant churn with skepticism and deliberate caution. He subjects every new trend to the same long-term evaluation he applies to other aspects of life. Does this serve my existing goals? Does it expand my knowledge or sharpen my skills in a lasting way? If the answer is yes, he may engage, but always on his own terms and at his own pace. More often than not, he remains a detached observer, content to watch the waves of excitement rise and fall, without being swept along by them. He understands that most trends are engineered to exploit novelty and urgency, feeding on a human desire for inclusion and recognition. Yet, once the excitement fades, little remains beyond wasted hours and fragmented attention. By refusing to surrender to the pull of every viral wave, the Sigma male preserves something rare in the modern world: consistency. While others scatter their focus across countless distractions, he maintains a steady rhythm of deep work, reflection, and skill building. Over time, this consistency compounds quietly, producing expertise and resilience that cannot be replicated by momentary popularity. His avoidance of viral trends is not a rejection of progress or innovation. It is a refusal to let engineered urgency dictate his path. He adopts new tools, ideas, or movements only when they align with his purposeful growth, and never because of fear of missing out. For him, true advancement is measured not in clicks or views, but in the enduring strength of what he builds. Conclusion: a life of calculated intent. The Sigma male's indifference to many mainstream pleasures and practices is not the product of joylessness or antisocial tendencies. It is instead the outcome of a carefully calibrated value system. Where others see entertainment, validation, or belonging, he evaluates every activity through the lens of return on investment. Does it preserve his freedom? Does it sharpen his clarity of thought? Does it contribute to meaningful, lasting growth? If the answer is no, the activity is discarded without hesitation. In this way, his refusals are not rejections of life, but affirmations of agency, statements that he alone chooses what enters his mind, occupies his time, and shapes his destiny. He operates from a foundational truth. Life is finite, focus is irreplaceable, and meaning is not something inherited from tradition or imposed by culture. It is something consciously assigned. To squander attention on distractions, spectacles, or shallow pursuits would be to dilute his most valuable resource. Instead, he invests with precision, channeling energy into experiences that deepen perspective, relationships that nourish reciprocity, and work that builds lasting significance. To outsiders, skipping the ordinary may appear like sacrifice, but to the Sigma, it is the most direct path to crafting a life that is authentically and unmistakably his own. In his eyes, the refusal to participate in the unnecessary is not a loss. It is liberation. It is the quiet strength of a man who has chosen to live with calculated intent. Do these principles echo your own approach to life? Perhaps you've noticed similar choices in how you filter distractions, prioritize growth, or define freedom. We would be keen to hear your reflections on these points and how they resonate with your personal journey. Do you resonate with the ideas I shared in this video? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you're interested in more content about Sigma males, explore the other videos on this channel. Thanks for watching.